Woohoo! Hello! Okay. Apparently Rid is doing that. Hello! Let me turn down the music a little bit. There we go. Okay, howdy! Music's still a bit too loud? I don't know. Or maybe I'm just too quiet. Excuse me while I move the mic. Okay. Anyway, howdy. Okay, hi. Oh, little Scrabble's stirring at my feet. Okay, everything's going on. Anyway. Hello. So for today, we will be doing another coding stream, continuing with the ribbon control that I've been building. And if you do not know exactly what I'm talking about with ribbon control, I'm talking about this thing right here that you now see on screen. If you've used programs like Microsoft Office or Autodesk software or a number of other things, certain versions of Windows Paint or Windows WordPad, you will see the ribbon in there at the top of the screen. So I'm sure you're fairly familiar with how this looks. And I have been working on my own version of it. We'll begin with a quick summary of what I've done in the past 2 streams. Today is the 3rd stream. And then from there, we'll just kinda keep on going. So, we ended off the end of last stream with this. I got a singular group appearing, and I have some items on it, and it kind of works in that direction, but it's kind of about that. But it's good. It's progress. The first stream focused a lot more on the actual code behind stuff, such as this sort of stuff here. Excuse me. That formed the basic logic of the controls. The basic ideas of what kind of things will be put into a control and how it'll actually function. Whereas last stream was more focused on how it'll actually look, which is what this particular big ol' file is for. And if we hide all this other sections that we don't need right now, you'll see here, this is where I defined how a group on the ribbon will look, a group of commands. And last stream, on the end of the first stream, I started a little bit with this, but last stream I got definitely a lot further with doing things like, well, actually defining it. This is the section that talks about the header at the bottom. Actually, this is the section that defines everything, isn't it? No, it's not. This is just the header. So this is the section that talks about the text at the bottom of the group here, and also this little launcher icon. And has a couple of things in there for some other features that I haven't yet enabled or wrote in. And this is all that I actually need for filling in stuff up here. That little section actually just sets up how things are laid out in this section, because if we scroll down a bit further, here's where we actually define the visuals of the button, as in the actual icon, the little actual command buttons themselves. And this is quite big. But in reality, this actually isn't too difficult to understand, I would say. The actual part that really matters is this section here. This is what actually defines how the ribbon looks, or the button looks. And more importantly, actually, I can just kind of cut out this section here. This little section is what actually contains the meat of the logic that actually, or the meat of the visuals, I suppose, that actually defines, okay, a big button will have the icon at the top, the text over here. Now, a small button will have the icon on the left and the text next to it. And that's all done in this little section right here. This is the part for the small icons with the icon on the left. And this is for the large ones with the icon on top. And I can delve further into more of these if desired, but at this point this is just kind of an overall summary of what we did last time. And then all this stuff, as I scroll down here, this actually controls how the button looks in certain states. For example, if you tell it to have a large icon, that means that it will hide the small part and only display the large icon. This button settings, this visuals. And then oppositely, if it's a small icon, we'll hide the large button items and then show the small button stuff. And then I go down for each different iteration that could possibly happen. So that is how we ended last stream. Alright. So now, since then, between the second stream and now, I have made a couple other adjustments of my own. On my own time. And I'll now show you what that looks like here. And I would say overall, so the first stream I have made a highlights reel if you wanted more details as to what is actually, as to what I did in that stream, and kind of more information about some of the coding principles and concepts that I interacted with during that time. And that stream also kind of goes in more details as to what my actual goals are with this and what kind of this larger thing is here that we're looking at. The second stream I would say is more seeing a programmer live doing their own thing. The best I can put it. Rather than... Whereas the first stream I had more of a plan and I executed on that and kind of did things along the way. The second stream was me more just going along as I did and figuring it out as I go. Excuse me. So I probably won't make a highlights reel of that, and hopefully the summary that I had just done is enough to kind of summarize what happened in the second stream. And now here, this is where I get to show off the things that I did in between the second stream and now. So if you recall, I'm not sure if I didn't really point it out, but if you recall from when I showed you the previous image, the word sort and filter was displayed on a single line all the way out. And then the arrow icon was a little bit off-centered from that. And if you look at actual ribbon controls, that's not how that looks. How it's actually done is divided in between two... Hello. Between two rows of text. If you have a large enough thing to have 2 rows of text. And so what I actually did is I found the implementation in Microsoft's WPF ribbon version. Their implementation where they did this exact thing where they have 2 lines of text. And I simply copied it over and made some adjustments to it, tweaked it a little bit, and now I have it here too. I figured that it would be easier for me to just simply do that rather than attempting to build it from scratch myself, making my own calculations, things like that, when there's already an implementation out there that I can easily access and use and would be better quality, probably better performance, easier to use, that sort of stuff, than whatever I would have come up myself. That being said, that only applies to this little text area here and the ability of putting the arrow icon on the bottom row of text. Other than that, all this other stuff is still the stuff that I've been doing myself. A couple other things that you see here is I added a little separator line between multiple groups, and I added a little bit of padding between the text so that if you have an empty group, there's still like a little bit of a space between the actual separator lines. So that is what I accomplished here. And so this kind of looks similar to as if you had just the actual group section here and none of the actual tabs on top. So my goal for today is to actually build the tabs part, so that you can actually have a ribbon control with multiple tabs, switch between the tabs, and then you'll see these things when you switch to different tabs. That is the goal for today. We'll see how far we get. If I can get to a satisfactory place with that, then my second goal will be to start adding in more logic for when you click on buttons, make stuff happen, things like that. So to get started with that, we will again be doing more in this particular file here, where I just lay out the visuals. Very exciting time. And I'm actually gonna I'm gonna scroll down, here we go. I'm gonna take out this section again. Do not need that in there anymore. And I'm gonna hide this, I'm gonna hide that, I'm gonna hide that. And depending on how things go, I might have another stream later, a 4th part stream for this, or this might be the last stream and I do everything else offline, quote unquote. Of course, you can always check up on the progress of the things that I'm doing by going on to the GitHub page, which I will show you right now. Whoop. So this is where you'll actually see the online version of all of my code that I've made. And because this is an open source library, it is all code that you can see, and to an extent you can use in your own stuff. And now, if you go down to change the branch from the main branch to the ribbon branch, where I'm actually doing this exact code, you'll see here, this is where I left things off with where I'm at now. So if you downloaded the code from this specific branch right here, then you would actually get exactly the same code that I'm starting off with right here at the beginning of this stream. And then from here, I'm going to keep doing more code, and then after the stream I will upload this as well so that you can find it online on here as well. But yes, so let's get started with that part. So for the ribbon control, and I have a piece of paper I'm using to base my work off of here. The ribbon control is going to have two components. Will be the tab bar at the top, where the actual tabs are in the tab bar. And then the actual main area here where the actual groups and the commands and the buttons and all the things you can click on are. So we'll be doing that same thing. And so I'll be defining a group that has 2 rows. And the top row will be the row where we have the tabs, and then the second row, this is the top row, the second row will be where we have the commands and stuff. And I have also set the max height here to 96 for a valid reason. Actually, I'm going to change it to 98 because there's going to be a border there. Although now that I think about it, how did I do it in the tab control? This is a different control that I had already built myself called the tab control. And I'm just going to look through this for a moment to see how I did. That's just all about the menu. Actually, can I just hide this section? Excellent. Okay. Okay. Part content. Okay. I see. So I did actually do it that way. Which means that what I did was... I'll just open this up and show you. Because the part that I'm trying to figure out is how to do this border along the edges here. Excel is actually not a great example, modern versions of Excel. Maybe if I change the color to... color. Oh, that doesn't actually make a difference. Okay. Most recent versions of Excel don't really actually have the best example of this, but there is a bit of a border between the actual tabs and the commands, and then that border between the commands and the rest of the window. And so that's the thing that I'm now worrying about doing. So if you look at my tab control, you'll see here that I have that same sort of thing where I have a border around the actual tabs and then between the actual content. The big difference, or the way that I did this, is that I put the border around this is actually just on these 3 sides, or the actual content of the tab itself. And then the top section is actually connected to the tabs. So the border, it looks like it just kind of continuously flows, but this is actually a separate border for this, and then each one of these is their own border as well. So I'm gonna have to do a similar thing to that, I think. And so for doing that, I'm gonna actually find... Okay, 1 moment. Oh, I see what this is. That's vertical tabs. Which is a feature I will be adding in as well for that. But anyway, that's not relevant to what's going on right now. So what I'm actually going to do... Boop! Is I'm going to take this entire section. And I am going to copy it into here. Okay. Why is it upset? Let me guess. Okay, let me scroll. Okay, yep. I'm gonna actually undo that, what I just did. I'm gonna paste it into here. There we go. Okay. And I'm gonna then remove this section. I do not need that. Order right holder. Oh, okay. Okay. That actually works out well. So what I've done by copying all of this over is now the main tab bar section I actually just put right into here again, which includes with that logic for scrolling and also includes the actual element for displaying the top right element, which I talked a little bit about in the first stream, which is going to allow developers to do things like put these buttons up in the top right corner. So okay, that actually worked out well. And then I'm gonna remove that section. I don't need that. Okay. Oh. And don't need that. Okay. And for now, I'm gonna set this to 24 to make sure this is at least 24 tall. And I will do with that later. And I'm actually gonna do one more thing. Margin. There. And then finally, I'm gonna... Oops. Property. Adding. Value 300. Oops, no, that is not correct. 0. 3 0. Oh, Okay. Alrighty, so I just went ahead and just spied a lot of these things. What is going on? Why is this upset? I'm not sure why it's upset at the moment. Let's try building. Sometimes when you just build the program, it just helps get rid of whatever errors are going on in there. Yay! Alright. So that is a lot of code I just copied in. But as it is right now, that'll allow me to get a big head start on this. Okay. So one other secret, not really a secret, but one other kind of trick that I do for the tab control, which I had just shown a little bit earlier, is that there is a difference between the actual physical tabs that you see in the UI and the actual code, like tab code, that developers interact with. So if I come back down to this, so these actual physical tabs here, developers that use my library don't actually interact with these physical tabs at all in their code. Instead, they have an item that is called a tab item that they interact with instead. And so I'm going to do the same trick with the ribbon. Whereas these actual physical tabs, developers aren't going to be able to actually directly interact with. But instead they'll have something called the ribbon tab, which I built in the first stream, that they'll interact with. And that I will pull information from that into here so that it looks like how the developers want. So to get started with that, do that. I'm actually going to do one more thing. To get started with that, I'm going to create a new subfolder called utils. And I'm actually going to move these two into here. Let's see if I can adjust those namespaces. Yes. Okay. And so then let's see if this has got that right. One moment here. No, this part is not right. But that's fine. And the reason why I'm using this utils folder is so that I am not cluttering up the actual main folder here with too many things that aren't as necessary. So if a developer is going to use any of this code, they're not seeing a bunch of random controls that they're like, I do not know what any of this does, I don't know if I need any of this. Instead, the stuff that I use in the background to make the ribbon work is kind of hidden away, so the developers don't need to think about it. And instead, it'll just work for me. What is going on here? Oh yeah, because I deleted that section. Okay. Doing a little bit of scrolling. There. Now I will build this again, and now this should be good to keep going from there. Also, for today, I once again have food. I was gonna eat earlier before the stream, but my dog was very insistent upon going outside. Little puppy boy. And so outside I went with him. So I'll once again mute the mic every now and then when I try to eat my sandwich. Okay. And so do that as we get started here. So this will actually be called the ribbon tab display item. Okay. Okay. That was a long pause, actually. I'd avoid doing that. Now that I think about it, I believe the ribbon... No, excuse me. I believe the tab display item is actually... Yeah, it's a user control. Okay. I'm actually going to come back here and I'm going to delete this. Whoop. Ribbon tab display item. So for this particular control, this will interact, this will act a little bit differently from the controls that I was just working with, like the ribbon group and the ribbon button. And instead, what I'm actually going to be doing is directly putting the logic and the visuals into the same place. And if you're wondering why I can't do that for the other controls, like the buttons and the actual ribbon itself, it's because by doing it this way, this actually has a couple of disadvantages, especially for if someone wants to modify the ribbon and in their own way and do their own thing with it a little bit. And it comes with some other disadvantages as to how the actual code is built and what developers have access to that either they should have access to and don't, or they shouldn't have access to but do. So that is the reason why. And it is, again, fairly vague, but if I need to go into more detail, if you want to ask me about it, I can. So okay, and a lot of what I'm going to be doing for this, called the ribbon tab display item, I'm actually going to be copying out of this item called the tab display item, which I had shown before is used for the tab control. And in fact, I'm actually going to do the similar type thing here. A visual represent. Ribbon tab. And a ribbon. Visual rendering of it to display on a ribbon. Okay. I have two constructors here. Oh, because the second one I actually defined the... Okay. Ribbon tab. Okay. So in programming a constructor, which is what these little bits are here, is the code that when you create an object, this will be the code that runs every single time, and this will be what actually kind of... This is where you include your logic for, say, if you need to set up something in your code, or if you need to initialize something, or create a connection, or create a this or that. This is the code that would actually do that, because it is guaranteed for every time that you actually, every time that your object, for example, the ribbon tab display item, every time one is created, one of these here will be run. And we'll do all whatever logic you put in here before anything else happens. And it is helpful for situations like if I need to hook up some event handling, so like if people click on things or if a certain setting changes, then I already have that hooked up to begin with. Excuse me. So that I can handle it already right away. Yeah. This is a lot of commented out code. I could probably remove some of this. Oh well. And why does this have not? What is this for? Internal tab item changed. Okay, one moment. I might have just come across a bug. I think I did. Oh. Although I'm not sure which one of these two actually gets. Oh. Okay. But which one of these two actually gets used? I think it's this one and not this one. I could be wrong. Okay. Either way, I will delve into that later. So in fact, I'm actually going to undo the change that I just did here. Boop. So that I will have to make a note for myself, in fact I'll do that right now, to look at that for next time. Okay. In constructors, in tab display item. Okay, note for myself for later. There we go. I'm also gonna check on one other thing quick. Boop. Okay, we're good. Alright, so back to this. So I will... don't need to worry so much about... well, okay, actually no, I will actually implement that. I'm gonna copy this entire section as well into here. So in C# programming, C# is a language I'm using, and more in general .NET. And it has support for something called an event. When it comes to programming and interacting with UI and interacting with just things around, how do I put it? Like interacting with UI or interacting with other elements. There are two ways to do handling of things like checking for a keyboard key button being like a key on the keyboard being pressed, or a mouse click, or a button on a game controller being pressed, for example, things like that. There's two ways you can either do it. One is called events, where the actual system itself, the operating system, in this case Windows, goes to all of the programs and raises an event for each program telling them, hey, a mouse button was just clicked, or a key on the keyboard was just pressed, things like that. And then in here we actually connect to each of these events, such as a click or a right click. And then we can handle these events on our end and do certain things based upon that. The other way that things can be done is called polling, where rather than us waiting for the operating system to tell us that something happened, instead what we're doing is every handful of milliseconds we're checking, hey, is the button on the mouse clicked? Is there a certain key on the keyboard that's being pressed right now? Polling is more common to see in game development and in interacting with hardware more directly, whereas things like business software or things like handling, like developing user interface components, as you'd see on websites, on desktop programs, on mobile apps, instead you would see events. But polling also has its uses in such situations too, if that makes sense. But that is what these are. These are a collection of events that we are actually going to take in and handle. And so, example, there's a click one, the right click one, like I had showed. There's an event that I created myself called request close, which actually does not make any difference here. So I'm actually going to remove it. Goodbye. And there's the last one here that I also created myself called tab item drop. This is one that I had copied over from the tab display item because it supports dragging and dropping tabs. And then actually my ribbon, we're going to support the same thing of dragging and dropping tabs to rearrange them. But that is not what we're going to do right now. Okay, so instead what we're actually going to do, I am going to now take this section of code and copy it over. Oh. Utils. I have multiple utils libraries, and so I actually sometimes have to specify which one I'm actually pulling from for certain features. Okay. Oh, there's a bug somewhere. Something happened. There's a problem. What? Oh, is it actually in? Okay, there we go. Now that's solved. Okay. So I copied over that section. This section that I just messed with contains some small helper pieces of code that I had built previously that helps convert things from one format to another. Yeah. That is why they're called converters. So now the next thing I'm gonna take is this. I'm gonna take that too. Where should I copy from? Oh. I don't need to go that far. Okay. So I'm gonna copy this whole section again. And I'm actually gonna remove this button. We do not need a button. And we'll do that. This is for an item that I actually also do not need in here. So I'm also going to remove that. So in fact, we don't even need these column definitions at all. And in fact, with all of that done, I can actually just remove one of these grid layers. I think. Actually, never mind. I'm going to keep that there. Okay. And then finally... Oh, that's done. That's in there. I'm going to also copy this. So there's a lot of copying of existing code that I've already made that I'm doing here again. One moment. Why is this in here? What? Okay, one moment here, please. Really? Only there? Okay. I'm gonna have to think about how I did some of this stuff. Can select keyboard focus and... Actually, I can select and keyboard focus are done. Okay. Another thing that I'll have to look at later. Okay. So we finished with copying over the elements that I needed from that. We finished copying over the visuals part, so now I'm going to copy over some other parts. So instead here, this is going to be called, type of ribbon tab. Ribbon tab, display item. Ribbon tab, ribbon tab. Excellent. And so now that we have that, ribbon tab, display item. Okay. Alright, one more item I'm actually gonna have to copy in from here is bring into view. Okay. And then I'm gonna copy this into the ribbon tab. Bring into view is a pretty straightforward function, and it attempts to bring the current tab into view on the ribbon. So example, if you had scrolled the ribbon over and then you want to actually look at that particular tab again or have it actually visible, what this will do is it'll automatically scroll it back to wherever it is so that this tab is visible again. But we're gonna move on. Where is this defined? In here. Okay. Excellent. That's helpful. That's fine. Okay. Internal event for handling the into view function. When this is raised, this should prompt the UI to bring the related ribbon tab oop. Or other similar control into view. Control. No. Framework element. Bring into view. Okay. As I described in the first stream, this section of code here is what describes what the various pieces of code that I've made do, so that if other developers come in and want to use my stuff, they have these descriptions to kind of tell, oh, this is what this property does, this is what this function does, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, and so as you can see here, the text that I had written down, if you put your mouse over this in Visual Studio, you'll see this text actually appearing down over here. So that is why it is helpful to have that, so that other developers, when they do this, they can actually see this as well. But anyway, now that that is done, we're going to move back to what I was doing. And so now, bring into view is a function that is supported. Hooray! A function that is not needs to be supported is request close. I'm going to do that, because that's not a thing that we're gonna handle in here is closing. There's not going to be a close button, for example. That will do that. Okay. So now we're going to come into here and we're going to actually, I'm going to remove the icon. That's another item I do not need. Perhaps do not need a dirty indicator. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of this code that I ended up not needing. Okay. Oh. Okay. Path type item title. That actually works out really well. Enter margin. Let me grab this again. 3 and 2. And we're gonna have a design height here of 24. And also, so that something actually gets rendered on the screen, I'm gonna put in a tab. And then we'll just move this to 60. Alright. So this looks like an individual tab on the tab bar. It is, yeah. So it's that. So this border is called border. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna come back to here. I'm going to take this color scheme section. I believe I had mentioned previously the color scheme is a object bunch of code that I had put into my program before that will... One moment. What am I thinking? This is what I had put into my program before in order to support having different colors and allowing users to kind of quickly change whatever color they want the interface to be to all just be, you want a pink interface, or you want a blue interface, or you want to this or that or whatever. I believe I described it in better detail in a previous stream. Okay. So, yeah. This is gonna just be more with, again, copying that. Highlight brush, border, highlight brush. Hello, I see I've got new follower. Thank you for the following. Zan2622. Howdy. Okay. So now that that is done, I'm actually going to have to copy over a couple other things to make these parts work, and then we'll be good. Hello, hello. How are you doing? What am I looking for? Selected, selected? No. Yes. Thank you. I am half fine. Okay. Half fine is better than 0 fine. Something troubling you, I suppose. Up to if you want to really talk about it or not. Tab background is not going to be a thing I'm going to support. Okay. Well, that's things that your knee hurts a little bit. Hopefully that'll get better for you Okay. Oh, one last little piece that I'm still missing. Alright. And then I'm looking for... Where should I define home? Here. Just... Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm gonna actually copy this whole section here too. Well, hopefully other than your knee hurting, excuse me, I hope that you're having a good day otherwise. Shading click. This can select a feature that I want to support. No. At least not at this moment. It was okay. Yours. Mine. Thus far, doing good. It is still midday, so I still have more day to go. But it's been a pretty leisurely day thus far. Today is a holiday, so I get to not work today. Alright. And then later I will be going out with my dog and meeting up with my mom and her dog, and we'll be all hanging out together. What are we working on? I'm working on a ribbon control. So similar to the ribbon like this example I have right here. It's all these things. Yeah. I've already gotten about, I would say about 33% done in the 2 previous streams. And I'm hoping now I can start putting together the final big pieces. And from there, just kind of polish it up from there. Well, I always like working on something, and Better Explorer was a lovely thing that I was very happy to be working with for quite some time. But it's nice for me to kind of build my own implementation rather than for Better Explorer we worked on someone else's implementation of the ribbon. I see that's missing. And so having my own implementation is nice because then it allows me to do my own thing. Or to me to know exactly what it is that's going on inside it out. And also implement the features that I want to see. Initiating click. Right now, I'm in the process of kinda oh, because I have a whole actual clicks headline section. Just copy that whole thing. There are other existing frameworks, including the one that we use in Better Explorer called Fluent. And there's of course the one that is out of the box included with WPF called the WPF ribbon, is what I've generally seen it called. But I wanted to build my own framework primarily because there's a couple of special features that I want to support. For example, this is the Autodesk ribbon, and the Autodesk ribbon supports some special and different things, like being able to hide more commands under an arrow down here that you can click on and there's more commands that open up and it'll pop up. And the ability to take a tab, or to take a group I should say, and pull it off the ribbon and just have it floating in the window elsewhere. There's that and a couple other smaller things, which some of which I might implement, some of which I won't. And also just, I don't know. I like just kind of building my own version of things anyway. For better or for worse. But yeah, that's primarily... Yeah, 3ds Max is one of, I think that's one of the Autodesk programs, yeah. So that's kind of the same idea that I'm implementing there. So, because I don't know, I had, in high school I had taken an architecture class that used Revit, which is a different Autodesk program, and it had those features in that ribbon, and it just really... Ever since then, I could still just never get that out of my mind. Mouse down, mouse up. Okay. So getting back to describing the actual code here, all these major sections that I had just copied over from my other program, this is mostly code that I had built and kind of copied from control to control. Maybe there's a better way that I should and can think about making this not so much copy and pasting, but it's a segment that I already have on how to handle mouse clicks or the keyboard, somebody pressing the enter key or the space key, and implementing that as a click. And so as a part of that, that is where we get to come in back again to events, which I just talked about. So there is the key up event where somebody lets go of a keyboard key, when somebody pushes down on a key, when somebody touches, when somebody touches the touch screen and touches your control or releases, moves your finger off from that. And again, for mouse clicking and mouse that. Okay. My opinion on Copilot and ChatGPT that help developers generate code for them. AI, when it comes to that sort of AI stuff, there's two things that I think are important that will need to be figured out, or will need to be kept in mind, I suppose. The first thing, and I think that is a pressing issue that is still kind of being worked on right now, but I think after whatever gets sorts out, I think it'll be fine. It's an issue that needs to be sorted out right now, though, is making sure that these AI things are trained on code that they have the license to use. And that not only applies to, say, things like Copilot, but also like the art generative AI stuff, is making sure you're using assets that you have the rights, the ability, the license to use. But I think that in the coming months or years, that will be sorted out. We're already kind of starting to see that sorted out with AI art generation, where there's options that artists are able to toggle things like that. A similar thing just needs to happen with Copilot and whatever competing code generation AI things will be there. The other thing to keep in mind, which you kind of talked about already, is that it's important to note that these things should be used as tools that somebody can kind of use to get a head start and just kind of hit the ground running with some code, but that AI itself can't just be generating the code fully for you, because a lot of the times the stuff that it generates isn't going to be working 100%. There's going to be something that's weird or something that doesn't add up right. But if you use it as a tool, as a starting place, that from there you can modify it, make sure it works properly, make sure it does what you need, and kind of tweak it from there, I can see it being a really useful tool for somebody, either someone who is just starting out in programming and just wants to get into the meat and potatoes, the heart of it, and not having to worry about all this boilerplate fluff like this, or an experienced developer that has written this boilerplate type of fluff 50 times and just wants to get into actually doing the part that matters, which is this section down here, for example. So I think there is a place for it. I think that there needs to be proper education and proper rights, legal issues sorted out first. But I think once that's sorted out and people realize what the AI can be used for and what it can be done with it, then it could be good. But using it to wholly, say, replace an artist, take an artist's job, or take a programmer's job, things like that, that I don't think is a good idea, and I don't want that to be direction that people use AI for. Okay. So yeah, that's my code. That's my thoughts on that in a nutshell. So I don't know, and I feel that's maybe not a very controversial thought. How complete is it? About 33% at the beginning of this stream. Hopefully by the end of it, we'll be about closer to 45 or 50%. Let's see if it actually builds right now. Nope. Oh, it's because it's missing. Oh. Ah. Okay. Actually going to disable this for the moment. No, I won't. Gonna undisable it. This is the section that actually is used for the visual aspect of drag and drop. For the ribbon tabs. So I'm actually gonna copy the drag and drop code that I already have and put that in here too. But oh yeah. Okay. And for that, I'll have to do drag and drop events. Get that into here. But yeah. This is the third stream I've been doing for developing the ribbon. And I feel like each stream I've been able to make some good progress thus far. And I think it might take a fourth stream to actually get to something at least good enough, complete enough, that it'll be usable for other people. But this is still going to be a lot of work from this point onwards still. There's going to be a lot of polishing and a lot of small things that need to be kind of cleaned up before I would say that it is fully good to go and ready. Okay. Woo! That's a big thing. Okay. What software do you want to create this ribbon for? There is a piece of software I have in mind that I want to that is primarily driving me to create this. There's a couple pieces of software, but I have not announced them yet what they are. I think I've alluded to at least one or two of them in the past. But I do have reasons why I want to develop it. Doing things that I want to use it in. Yes. And it's primarily not announced yet because I still have stuff I want to do to kind of make sure I know how I'm gonna do these projects and how they're gonna get done. And that sort of stuff. It's not so much like some sort of contractual or anything like that. It's more of just, I don't want to start trying to promise something rather than when it's not even, when I'm still in the, like, design, thinking about it stages. If that makes sense. But yeah. I will say, though, that some of the other work that I've done with better explore years ago, parts of the work that I've done with that will come back into play with this new project, although it's going to be mostly its own thing to an extent. Go off in a very different direction. Not very, but a fairly different direction, I should say. But yeah. Okay. So, as I had shown previously, or where am I at? Actually, let's get out of this section here. This is the section for drag and drop, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get out of this drag and drop section. I don't need that for right now. So, like I had shown, so this is the event for mouse center. Oh, excuse me, long section here again. Okay. So these are the events, the code on my end for handling these events, like the mouse button being pressed or the mouse button being released unpressed, and other things like touchscreen and keyboard. These are, when these events happen, this is my code that actually handles what happens at that point. Which a lot of the meat of it is actually in a separate function I built called perform click, which is, you know, for actually when the user clicks on something and doing what needs to be done on my end for the actual clicking. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the visual side and we're going to tell WPF that, hey, we want to actually handle these events when the mouse gets clicked, or when the mouse button gets unclicked, or when the mouse enters into this tab, or when the mouse cursor leaves. All that sort of stuff. That is what I'm doing down here. So, do I have stylus enter? Is that what I have? No. Okay. We have stylus down, and the stylus is like a pen stylus, like for a drawing tablet. Because I want to support all of these if I can. Got keyboard focused. Lost keyboard focus. Key down. Key up. Yeah. And then focus, got focus. Lost focus. And because I already had copied over the code from the tab display item, which I use for my tab control, these functions, I already have the actual code on my end that says when the mouse button is clicked down, run this function right here called user control mouse down. Very generic name, but it's a name that does what it says. Okay. Let me see if there is anything else. Mouse down, touch down, stylus, key, focus, got focus, mouse enter, lost focus, mouse leave. And then control drag enter, control drop, control drag leave, control drag mouse move. Okay. Drag enter. Drag leave. Preview drag enter. For WPF, and I think a lot of Microsoft built UI frameworks, drag and drop, like the old process of dragging and dropping like a file or some text or this and that or whatever, is also handled through events, as I had described before, which is why I have events here for when somebody drags something in, drags something out. Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming along for a little bit. I hope you have a good day, and hopefully your knee Feels better later. Because yeah, I still am gonna be here for at least a little bit more. Drag over? Is that what I have? I do have drag over. Okay. So for this section, this is a lot of... Again, this is already code that I already have the backend stuff filled out for because I copied it over from my other control. And now I'm just telling the system again, I need to just handle these events. So next is drop. Control. Drop. Oops. Preview drop. Nope. Control. Preview drop. Query continue drag, which is a very strangely and specifically named event. And I think mouse move is another one that I need to do. I think at this point though, I think that covers most all of them. Drag over, give feedback, which is another weirdly named one. Preview, give feedback. Okay. Now, all of that being done, this is just me subscribing to events and telling the system, hey, I need to listen to all of these events and this is what I'm gonna do. Oh boy. Big chunk of code for that. Nope. And I'm gonna now have to... Okay. Now here's a question for me I need to think about. All drop, can close. I don't think I like the ability of handling some of those things. Yeah, especially since there's things like icon and padding and that sort of stuff that I do not need. Padding will take over actually though. Is ribbon tab and ribbon tab. Okay. Okay. What did I do here? It is what that is, though. Okay, one moment. Oh. Nope, I see. I see what I did. Okay. Alright. I think I'll try to avoid copying over the rest of this random code from tab item until later. And another aspect that I'm going to have to grab and copy over at this point, though, is going to be the tab just drop. This section down here is for certain events when you need to, for example, for a mouse click event, it's probably important to know which mouse was clicked, or which mouse button was clicked, I should say, where the mouse cursor is when it was clicked. Maybe some other information like if the I don't know what else is actually in mouse event args. Yeah, like if which mouse button was clicked and what the status for certain buttons are, which mouse device, if you have multiple mice connected for some reason, things like that. And so that is done by a special thing in C# called event args, or event arguments. This is what actually contains the data when it comes to a mouse clicking event that contains that sort of information that you might need when you actually need to handle an event. And so when you create your own events, for example, the one I'd created called tab item drop, you can create your own event arguments. And so that is what this section here is for, is ribbon tab item drop event args. Very lovely name. Okay. And I'm going to boop. A ribbon tab. Okay, and we're actually just going to go through all instances of where I have ribbon tab, a tab item in here, and I'm just going to change it to ribbon tab. Because here, I'm directly interacting with a ribbon tab and not a tab item. Why is this upset? Oh, because now I need to define this to ribbon tab. Okay. This is a lot of random boilerplate code to kind of get this sort of section done. But now that's all done, and in theory, drag and drop is now also supported for when I want to implement that in my ribbon later. Oh, still have an issue somewhere. What's up? Oh. Something is called... Oh. Sure. So my library here called Solid Shine UI, supports two different versions of .NET. Because over the years, .NET has kind of fragmented, and then, well, it started off with something called the .NET Framework, which is something included in Windows and allows you to put C# .NET apps and build them and have them run on Windows itself. And then later on, Microsoft made a version that it was originally called .NET Core, which not only works on Windows, but also works on Mac, on Linux, on Android, iOS, on the web. Although my UI library here, this is still stuck on just Windows, because of the fact that WPF, the system that I use for developing the UI, is still only a Windows-only system. But because there's now this two different types of .NET Framework and .NET Core, my library supports both. But because .NET Core is a newer thing and supports certain other features that .NET Framework doesn't, sometimes I have to divide my code into two and have a section for .NET Core for the newer features that supports, and .NET Framework for the stuff that doesn't support the newer stuff. I generally try to avoid it as I can, because in situations where I'm writing code and I can come up with a better way that I don't need to divide the code in two, if there's a better way where I don't need to divide it, generally that better way leads to better quality code overall. But sometimes it's unavoidable, as there's a certain big features that are in .NET Core that the framework just doesn't support, because Microsoft now doesn't really update .NET Framework anymore. It doesn't give it any new features or anything like that. But yeah. I'm gonna change this code here. Okay. And a lot of this stuff, like changing where it says ribbon tab to tab item, or excuse me, tab item to ribbon tab, and some of these other things, I will sort out later after the stream in my own separate time. But I think for now, we should be good to go now. At this point, I'm not even primarily focused on actually getting something to appear quite yet. Right now, I'm just getting focused on getting the code to actually run without errors. Looks like we did do just that. The code is now running without errors. So again, we still have this. This is where I'm actually at, the current status. There's that. So now the next part will be hooking up this section that I've just done. And there's a lot more that I'm gonna have to do to kind of make these things start to work, but that's okay. Tab background is not a thing that I have. I'm gonna disable that for right now. Tab item title. Okay. And I'm actually gonna set the default value here to unnamed tab. There we go. And I'm actually going to also again change this to, I'm actually going to change this to 0. And instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the padding by default to, where's ribbon tab? Here it is. For words. Okay. All right. So that is this whole section done. This is a lot of work just to do this little section right here. And I'm actually gonna do 0. 4 0. Yay. Okay. So that's all this little section right here. All of that work that I just done over the past hour-ish, just for getting this little bit to work. But I also did a lot of stuff under the hood, like by a lot of copying and pasting code, I should say, that'll save me having to do that sort of stuff later. So now we can go back to this lovely file, which has all this stuff. This is where I'm going to go back to defining the visuals of most of the other things that I'm working on. Of the actual ribbon itself. This is where I'm defining the ribbon visuals of that. And so now, rather than using the tab display item, I have the ribbon tab display item. And I do not need this. I don't need that. Parent tab control, I'm actually going to change to parent ribbon. That is something that I am going to need. And so I'm gonna put that right here. Boop. Ribbon. Ribbon, ribbon. And ribbon. And then this ribbon display item. Okay. This is what will allow me to take this section, this control here, the actual tab, and allow me to actually connect back to the ribbon that it'll be a part of. So there is a need for that for some reasons that I don't actually know off the top of my head right now, but I know it is important. I see. To do this. Actually, no, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna come back to tab control. I'm gonna hide this. I do not need that anymore. I'm gonna figure out what that is. That is what I need that connection for, is for this little thing that I have here. Okay. Internal. Internal tab item changed. Okay. I'm also gonna make those set up. This is what tells the system again that I'm needing to use these events, which these events are tied to rather than something like a mouse being clicked or some sort of hardware type of thing. These events are generally tied to a property being changed. Like if, for example, somebody drags this into a different ribbon, this tab, or something like that. Not really something that actually is going to be properly encountered very often, but it's there. I'm actually going to come down here. Tab item is equal to tab. Yay. Alright. Anyway, the last thing I want to do is set up tab display. So I'm going to do this. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Okay. I'm actually going to copy this whole section into the ribbon. I'm not going to clean it up very much. Much beyond whatever needs to be done to actually get it to run, because this section is not really set up for me to actually do anything else with it. But yeah, I guess I will define bool internal action is false. This is a variable that I like to use myself in a lot of my code so that I can differentiate between something that the user has clicked on a button, or the user is wanting to do something, or something's been clicked on or messed with or whatever. Differentiate between that and me doing something like me simulating a button being clicked, or me simulating something being changed or something like that. Because there's situations where I need to act differently or do certain things or not do certain things if that is the case. That is not a feature. That is something I'll have to implement later. Ribbon, tab, display, item. I see. That is something I will have to also sort out later. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to pull this section out and put it there. There we go. So now I don't need that section anymore. Okay, I just put some code in the wrong spot. That's essentially what happened there. Okay. This one doesn't really actually support... I don't have selection. That's not really a thing. That being said, though, I'm actually, rather than deleting this code, I'm actually going to just do that. So that I can... Okay. Alright. Alright. And for now, that's going to be not selected either. Okay. So I'm probably going to be finishing up the stream in just a little bit here. I didn't get all the way until actually getting the thing working, the actual tabs, but I'm getting a lot closer, primarily because a lot of this work that I've done is from stuff that I'd copied over from my previous work. Fit contents to width. Oh, I know what that is, but I'm not going to use that right now. Okay. Well, let's see how far I can get in the next couple of minutes here. And ribbon. That's what I'm missing. Ribbon. Okay. Show tabs on bottom is not something... It is something I'm wondering if I want to support that. With show tabs on bottom, I won't be able to actually show you right now. Actually, I probably could. That's something similar to... If I wanted to support something like having the ribbon on the bottom of the window and the tabs appearing on the bottom like that, that is what that would be for. Because that's something I have in the tab control, which is a lot of this code is copied from. In fact, I'm actually just going to do this instead. Flat. And replace that. There we go. Scroll buttons are visible. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Ooh, boy. Alright. This is gonna get into a lot further, deeper stuff than I was really planning to support right here and now. So it might be better for me to actually kind of hold off on some of this stuff. But I think what I will do is copy over what I can. So a lot of this stream turned into a lot of just copying and pasting existing code and kind of tweaking it, which, as I mentioned in my first stream, is something that you do sometimes a lot in coding, is just taking a lot of your existing code or existing code that is out there and then just tweaking it a little bit. That is what I did as well when I took in the ribbon 2-line text thing from .NET and from WPF from Microsoft's implementation. Is I took it in and then just tweaked it a little bit to meet my own needs. And that is what a lot of this stream was today as well, was a lot of just tweaking. But that's okay. Okay. And I'm actually, maybe it's just gonna be better for me to, rather than copy this little tiny bit, I'm going to instead, again, copy a bunch of code. Okay. All right. Okay. But I think at this point we're starting to get closer and closer to stuff that I don't feel like getting into right now, such as talking about template handling or commands or that sort of stuff. Things that I don't feel like discussing very much on the stream at the moment. And we're getting into the point where it's becoming more of me just having to sit down and just do the thing rather than actually anything interesting happening in the next little bit, I'll be honest. Okay, I guess I had already defined that. Alright. So at this point, I'm probably going to actually instead finish up with the stream. I will post online this progress that I had made thus far soon. And then I'm going to keep making more progress off stream. I might do one more stream where we focus on some other aspects that I think would be fun to show on a stream. Such as some more command hooking up type of stuff. But other than that, I think a lot of the work for the ribbon might be done off stream from here onward. Maybe I'll do another stream toward the end after I implemented most of it to kind of show off the features that I've done and maybe talk a little bit more about how I've done some of the things that I've did. More of like a retrospective overview presentation type of deal. But yeah, because at this point, the code that I'm going to be, the stuff that I'm going to be doing for this code from here on is less stuff that I feel like sitting here and actually wanting to describe out loud and go into details as to what is going on, and more stuff that I just kind of would rather put my head right into it and just dive in and do it without any further thoughts. And we'll see if that's something I feel like doing at this point now or not. I still, I still do though want to try to get something visible on screen for you to show you at least some sort of progress. So maybe it won't be done quite yet. Let's see what is still missing at this moment that is still upset about. Actually, I think it seems to be mostly good at this point. Okay, so the build. Wait. Okay. Okay. Cool. So this part is working. All right. So what I think I will show to you, just taking a few moments to make sure there's not something else important that I'm missing showing. Okay. So the actual aspect of doing the whole showing a oop. Showing things like actual commands on the ribbon in the tabs is not something I'm going to be able to do right now. But if I move this down a little bit, let's go a little bit further. Let's see what happens if I do 60, 60, 0, 0, vertical alignment top, horizontal alignment left. Yellow. Why is it upset? What? Okay, and now it's completely hidden. Whoa. Okay. What happens when I do this then? Oh, something happened. Adam's property is already registered to ribbon tab. Okay, so I need to look at this. Oh, actually, let me look at ribbon tab items. Ribbon items. Yeah, okay. Alright. There's a typo here. That's what's the issue. Okay. Alright. Oh no, what now? Oh. I know, okay. Alright. Just trying to get these last couple of things, and we're gonna do type of ribbon that if I can. Okay. Oh no, what now? Allow drag drop. Oh, okay. See, that's what building is sometimes helpful for, is figuring out where exactly I'm still missing things that I thought might have already been done. It is nice when you build your program, and what building is, I suppose I've never described what building is. All of this code that you see here, which is like, you know, words and symbols and things like that, to an extent is human readable. I mean, sure, for someone who isn't as knowledgeable about programming, this might not make that much sense. It might seem like gobbledygook, but it is human readable comparatively to when you actually build a program. It becomes something, in .NET it actually doesn't become pure assembly code, but it becomes something closer to pure assembly code, which is at that stage mainly just numbers and maybe a little bit mini fragments of text, but it is just numbers, because all computers only interact in numbers. That's all that they do, is just work with numbers. And everything that you see here at one point or another, in some form or another, can be re-represented as a number for a computer to use. And so at that point though, but writing code that is just numbers is kind of a pain, to say the least. And it's better to have something that is more human readable, because if you can actually read the stuff that you're writing, you can actually more properly see, oh hey, this doesn't make sense, it needs to be changed. Whereas something with numbers is a lot harder to just kind of pick that up. And so through layers of abstraction and amounts of just hard work done by people years and years and years ago, we've gotten to the point where a lot of our code isn't just raw numbers and bits of text anymore. That still happen though, especially for somebody who's actually more closer to interacting with the actual hardware, like the CPU, motherboard, that sort of stuff. But for the large majority of us though, we don't have to worry or think about that. And instead, we can just write code in this more human understandable way. But then when you build it, what building does is it takes it and puts it back into that more computer understandable format. So that when you actually run the program, then the computer can take the stuff that was built and use it. And so that's why when you try to build sometimes and an issue occurs, that's when you can tell yourself, oh hey, something here didn't work. Okay, why? Type of thing, you know? Yeah. And so it is kind of nice when you're building something and it builds and it says, oh, that's not a good example. Oh, here. Build 1 succeeded. When it says it succeeded, that means, all right, yes, the code that I just spent a lot of time working on, there wasn't immediately anything wrong with it, nothing foundationally wrong with it at the core. Let's see what happens now. So it is nice when you get to get that response back and get that feeling of, all right, I haven't done something completely catastrophic. But yeah, as you see here, for some reason, the table, the title, this is supposed to say yellow, but it still says unnamed tab, which is like the generic value I'd put in. For some reason, yellow isn't showing up here, and I'm not quite sure why. The other thing I'm also gonna do is I'm going to come into here, and I'm actually gonna give this the color scheme. Okay. So now when this actually appears, now this should be actually that color, yeah. So I'm not quite sure why it just says unnamed tab rather than actually being the proper thing that it's supposed to be. But it is progress to an extent. And so if I did a little bit of visual stuff here. Yeah, Scrabble. Oops. Black. Border thickness 1011. I'm gonna take this section and move it in here. So there's still a long ways to go for sure, but it's starting to come together a little bit more as an actual ribbon, I would say. Especially if I actually did vertical, horizontal alignment. That did 20. Yeah, I still have a long way to go, but this is starting to look more and more like an actual ribbon, I would say. And I think maybe you would agree. I hope so. Yeah. So this was good progress, although primarily most of what I did was just this little section right here. I didn't even get to filling in the rest of this or making this section and this section actually connect together. This is just a visual trick. But getting this section here done was an important part, even though there's still clearly work to be done here. But it is progress. Let me see. I'm gonna spend a few extra moments to see if I can figure out why that did not appear. The actual name. But then if I can't, then we're just gonna say this is gonna be done. So the tab item is filled in with that. And then this should be taking that. Properly. Okay. So let's go to here. Oh, that isn't running. Oh. Oh, okay, wait. Oh, I do not need that part. Tab item change. Tab item changed. Okay. So what this little dot here that I'd put in, this is called a breakpoint. And essentially it tells the computer when you're actually like working on your code, if you run into this specific section of code in my program, just pause. And that's what it did. So here I'm going to actually take a look at the tab item that I put in. This should say title home. I changed the title from yellow to home, so this is correct. This does say title home. I don't have any items in it. There's nothing else that I think I should have set up. So I think that is all good. Yeah. So that makes me wonder, why is this not updating itself correctly? Ah. I think I know why. Alright, let's try one more time. I think I had forgotten one small tiny thing, which unfortunately, well, with a lot of programming, a lot of it just comes down to forgetting one small tiny thing a lot of the times. Okay, we're gonna move forward. That says home. Excellent. Okay. One last thing I'm actually going to do. Why? No, why is this like this? I know I keep saying I'm gonna be done with this stream and I keep doing stuff. But I will be honest that I have a lot of fun in just kind of delving into random stuff I'm doing. Brushes, border. Border, border, border. Border focus. Okay, that's not what I care about. What changes the border on this? Tab is selected, changed. Okay. Okay. That's going to take a bit more work than I think I can just quickly do in a few minutes here. Okay. That's fine, though. Okay. But this will be a nice place for me to end this stream at, is that I got another big piece of the thing done. There's still definitely a lot more piece of the thing to be done. But I got this little tab to appear here. And we can now begin to kind of see the larger picture of this is how the ribbon's going to look in the end. That being said, why is that part not visible? That's correct. I do not know what's going on with that part. Anyway, the further that I'm going... Oh, okay, let's take a look at this. I bet it's something to do with that. I'm gonna say. Something to do with something down here where some of the code is not connecting up to each other properly. Because I copied and pasted a lot of code over and I tweaked a lot of it to fix it, but there's probably some tweaking I still need to do. But okay. But for here and now, this is where I'm going to end off this stream. You can start to get an idea, like I said, of the bigger picture here. And I might do one more stream at some point soon to quote-unquote finish things off and maybe do a little bit of other extra random stuff along the way. But I'm probably also going to make a lot of progress off stream just on my own time where I don't have to sit here and think about saying the things that I'm doing, to be honest. But at least, even though a lot of it was maybe not exactly the most entertaining thing to look at, you got to see, in a sense, the progress that I've made, and I hope that now you get more of an idea of how things are gonna end up. Woo! But yeah, that's gonna do it for me here and now, and I will kind of see what happens from here, and we'll be good with that. And we'll see each other at some point soon, for one thing or another. I might do maybe another gaming stream at some point. I do need to still do. But yeah. But for now though, this is gonna be it for me. So I hope you have a good day. And we'll see each other later. Bye-bye! Bye-bye! Bye!